Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Heeney. I'm an officer of the board with Fertility Friends Foundation. I also host a weekly podcast called Talk on YouTube. And my dear friend here is the guy that cuts my hair on a regular basis.
Hi.
Uh, Hi, Michelle. I can see your comments in the comment section, but we still can't get you to join for some reason. Um, I'm joined by our good friend Aaron O'Brien, who is a celebrity hairstylist with CTV. You've probably seen him on Your Morning and most recently the Marilyn Denis show, which came to a pretty big finale last week.
Yeah, it was
It,
amazing.
I'm sure it was quite a big chapter for you to close that.
The end of an era for sure. It was very emotional, but I'm just happy for Marilyn and she's getting to live a bit more of her life. She's been working for a long time, so it's good for her to kind of start enjoying a little bit more of the family.
Absolutely. And speaking of family, the reason why we're here today is, as part of Pride Month, we were hoping to talk about LGBT issues around parenting, and you've had your own story around surrogacy, and so let's maybe start around there. Can you tell us a little bit about your history with surrogacy and how you and your
Yeah.
came to have your family?
So originally at the very start, we didn't know if we wanted kids at all. Just because in Ireland, it's not one, in my mind, it's not 1,000,000% accepted it's not as forward as Canada is in regards to surrogacy. So we never really thought it was possible even to have children. But then when we came to Canada, we realized, oh, this could possibly be an option for us. And when we first started thinking about it, we did actually think about adoption to start. And after going through, we jumping through hoops and going through agencies, we actually, as a gay couple, we found it really hard, really, really hard. We were in some occasions told that we might not, our families might not pick us, and we wouldn't be accepted into those agencies, and there was a lot of trials and tribulations with that, and it was kind of sad. So then we were like, okay, well, let's try the surrogacy route. Surrogacy seems like to be a great option for us as well. So we started to look on Facebook through agencies to find surrogates. We joined every single group that you can imagine to find a surrogate, find connections with people to learn more about surrogacy. We also we joined a 519 as well on Church Street. It was almost like a resource group where lots of parents would get together, learn more about surrogacy, their options, that sort of thing, and that was a great help. And we actually ended up finding our surrogate through Facebook, their first surrogate. So we went on that journey with the first surrogate. We lost actually all of our embryos through our first surrogacy. I think we had maybe 5 embryos, and it never worked out. It was actually quite a stressful experience, and we actually ended up deciding that the surrogate that we were with, just it wasn't working for us in the moment. So then we actually found our second surrogate, and we found our second surrogate actually through the Marilyn Denis show. So when I first started on the Marilyn Denis show, I did a competition. It was me and a bunch of other hairdressers, and it was to become Marilyn's next hair expert. And one of the models that was in the competition, we began the conversation. I was talking about how things weren't really working out with her surrogacy. And she said, if it doesn't work out, I'd love to be your surrogate. So I was like, oh, okay, this is probably a bit odd. And I didn't believe a word out of her mouth to start with when it came to the surrogacy, because there's no way someone would just approach me and be like, we'd love to do this. So when things did end with our surrogate, me and Jay, my husband, we were sitting on the couch, and we were just so tired, and just it was so much energy, so much that goes into this. We're like, what do we do next? And then I had a light bulb moment to contact Pam, who was a surrogate. And as soon as I sent her the first message, she was like, you want me to be your surrogate, don't you? And without even mentioning it. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay, call me. And ever since that phone call, she was on board. She wanted to start it straight away. We had an instant connection, and it was beautiful. It was a great way of meeting someone. It was very natural, and after going through Facebook and all these other scenarios, and even contacting agencies, we actually ended up finding ours through a very natural route.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And did you start the process by finding an egg donor first and kind of getting all those ducks in a row prior to looking for a surrogate? Or did you kind of go about it at the same time initially?
So it was initially, it was all sort of at the same time. We went through an agency as well, for the egg donor, and that process was actually quite a good process when we went through it. It was very eye-opening, to see how many people were generously donating their eggs, and going through the process of seeing these beautiful women's faces, and being able to really match up with someone that we felt was closest to us and what we liked in life. And it was it was a great process when we went through that as well.
What I always find amazing with surrogacy is that people often think, that you're going to approach this process from a scientific perspective and, you'll have more control over it. Some of the lessons that I learned is actually at the end of the day, nature takes over, right? And you can try and control the process as much as possible. But you're going to be in a situation where, despite the best science and everything, you're going to have to leave it to nature. And that whole process is a real roller coaster at times, right? You're waiting, to see how many eggs you're going to retrieve. You're going to see how many turn into embryos, whether they get tested, and how many of those are quality embryos that can be transferred. Can you talk a little bit about, the emotional cycle, and how you and Jay supported each other through all of that? And if you have any advice for any couples going down that path?
Like, it's like anything, everything has its ups and its downs, and it can be extremely stressful at times, very emotional. I know I cried quite a bit, and when you lose embryos, when your surrogate miscarries, when everything, it's very hard, it's very rocky, but you just have to kind of, you stick it out together. Like, you support each other, you cry on each other's shoulder, you try to move on, try to be positive through the whole process. And you just have to have the expectation that you're going to have those times, like any other couple that are trying to have a baby or have difficulty having kids. It's a similar process, I suppose, for us, because two men trying to have a baby through surrogacy, in, well, my particular situation. I know other people go through surrogacy, not just gay men, obviously. But yeah, I just think it's supporting each other is everything, and not being afraid to talk to other people. Like, share with your friends. Like, don't be afraid to talk about it. It's not taboo. We should be spreading awareness, and we should be talking about it. There's a million different types of families out there, and that's what I came to realize as well, that it was nothing to be, I suppose, quiet about.
Yeah. No,
Have the conversations.
same advice I try and give people: talk to friends, talk to family, because you'll be surprised how many people actually are out there willing to help, or may know somebody that can connect you in the right direction. You mentioned that you were from Ireland, and culturally things are not the same as Canada. Can you talk a little bit about that process once you did have children, and trying to
Yeah.
recognize?
Um, that was a very difficult process, and it was very, again, eye-opening on how backward some things are. Because I'll be honest, in Ireland, the people themselves are quite forward thinking, but it's the laws that are in place are so backwards. Um, for instance, we were applying for the passports for Jake, to start off. Obviously, later on, we applied for Abby's, but the initial process was near impossible. Jay had to do a DNA test, to prove that he was, the biological dad to Jake. His dad would have had, if we went through the courts, his dad would have had to do a DNA test. His brother would have to do a DNA test in Ireland. His brother in the States would have to do a DNA test, just to prove that none of them were actually the father of Jake. even though Jay is an Irish citizen and I'm an Irish citizen, they wouldn't have recognized that Jake was actually Irish until we went through all of these loops. But even today, if me and Jay moved back to Ireland or ever decided in the future to move back, I would have to become a guardian for me to have any sort of rights to Jake. If I went back now, even though I'm on the birth cert, just me and Jay, I would be a stranger to Jake and Abby. I would be a complete stranger. But luckily, the Irish people got behind us, and we went through a lot of media outlets, and we made our voices very much heard. We went on TV shows. We were in so many Irish newspapers, and we really just screamed at the top of our lungs to make ourselves heard and to show that there was an actual problem here and that there was something broken and it needed to be fixed in order for us and other families to be able to, I don't know, feel like, I hate using this word because I don't like saying the word normal, but to make us feel like we were everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I faced a very similar situation. I grew up in Switzerland. My parents still live there, although I was born Canadian. And we've gone through the same process in terms of trying to get them a passport. They also require DNA tests, and so far we have refused to do it because we don't think it's up to the government to force us to have that decision. We are both on the birth certificate from the very beginning. And if our kids one day want to find out who their biological parent is, then we will do that test. But to this day, we've never done it. And we don't think that the government should, impose that request on us. But the Swiss don't move as fast as, other countries like Canada. So it's one of those things that it's a battle I know I still want to fight. I just haven't had the time and the energy to take that on. But it makes you realize how lucky we are to live in a country like Canada, where families like ours are not only tolerated but celebrated, and that is reflected in the laws and customs, which in today's day and age is not something to take for granted.
I know, yeah, it's hard to think sometimes that your own country isn't always backing you when it comes to laws. But things are changing. Like I see things are changing in Ireland now. There's a lot of people from the LGBTQ plus community there, and they're fighting the good fight and trying to have their voices heard, which is great to see. And yeah, I just hope that everyone kind of catches up with this and things do start to change. And just like Canada, like when we came here, I couldn't believe how open this country was. I remember when I first arrived here, I got off the bus and I stood on the street and I seen a man, or a man, well, back in the day, I would say he, which is probably a day, wearing a dress walking down the street. And in Ireland, everyone's head would probably turn. Everyone's head would turn and be like, what the hell is going on there? But nobody looked. Nobody's head turned.
Mm-hmm.
That person just walked down the street like everybody else walked down the street. And in that moment, I was like, Canada is like home to me now. Like I felt safe. And I think that's what Canada brings in regards to being from the LGBTQ plus community. And I just think it's fantastic that we have this openness here.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about, your journey as young professionals, kind of starting your own careers and at the same time thinking of building a family? This process is not, cheap and not available to everybody. How did you guys overcome some of those hurdles?
I worked 24/7. It's expensive. It's expensive. And I actually try not to think of it as expense. Like I try not to think about that in my mind. But it is part of the process. And we went in actually for a line of credit to start off the process. So we went to the bank, we had that conversation with at the bank, and they were fantastic actually. We were in TD actually when I think back, and they were great. And we started off with that, and then we just start. Well, what Canada allows is that things can gradually be paid off. It's not like everyone thinks it's all one big lump sum and that's how it is. It's as you move along in the process, you have your line of credit, you start injecting money, like you save, Well, that's what we started off doing as well. We saved quite a bit of money for it as well. So I suppose what I'd say is go to the bank, see if you can get some money off the bank, and then obviously you have to have savings and making sure that you have the income to be able to do this, because you're starting a family here and you need money afterwards
Yeah.
as well to be able to take care of these children. Um, and yeah, think it's I don't think it's as much of a financial burden as many may think. And there's a lot of rumors around surrogacy, as in you pay a surrogate and all of that. And that's not true. It's you're paying for the process and helping your surrogate through certain situations, or if they need help with things, or it's just, I feel it's not as expensive as people think in one lump sum. It's a gradual thing.
Yeah,
So don't let
for sure. And
that turn it, don't let that turn you off, you know?
yeah, and to be honest, this is why I got involved with Fertility Friends Foundation. I think I always recognize that we are very fortunate to have gone through these processes. It's not available to anyone. And Fertility Friends was created in order to bring more equity to the process for people that otherwise may not be able to afford it. Um, what we've really tried to push, and that's why I've come on board, is to reach out to the gay community and say, look, there are resources out there that are helpful. And for the gay community especially, look out for Fertility Friends Foundation, because we'll be coming out with some new news. I can't disclose right now what it's going to be, but in the next month, there's going to be some specific grants to the community which are going to be helpful in trying to help other couples reach this
That's
journey.
amazing. That's amazing, because I wish we had that at the start, and we had nowhere to turn. And when we think of, like, we had to go to the bank and to have that conversation and to let them know where, where, why you need that money is always, in my mind, it was a difficult conversation. But to have resources like set aside like this, I think will be extremely, extremely helpful for the community. There's single parents out there, and there's families where there's only one person that might be working and can't afford to do this and don't know where to turn. And I think this will be a great way to have those resources and something in place for people to be able to get help.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm conscious of time. It's already 7:25, so I'm really grateful for the chat today. Before we finish up, what is something that you would say parenting has taught you, and how has it changed you over the past few years since you've had?
Parenting has taught me not to be so selfish, and that I can't go and buy lots of clothes anymore. No, on a serious basis, this whole journey and parenting, I think, has taught me how much I can love. Like, you never think you can love another human being as much as your own children. And I feel like it's taught me how to love more. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. And I don't know, yeah, that's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned, and what I love most about what I've gone through is that I never thought I could love anything as much as I love my children.
Yeah, it's amazing how all of a sudden your life just has a different purpose, right? Not that you need children in your life to have purpose, but all of a sudden I found when Ava was born and it was 3 in the morning and we were just there in the room, you just see your life in a completely different way. And I feel very lucky to, again, be in a country where these opportunities are available to people, like us.
Yeah, it's important. Like, this is a dream for people like us. It's an absolute dream that I know maybe 50 years ago, this would never happen for some people. Like, it would never happen. It wouldn't even cross our minds that this is a possibility, and our life would be completely different, you know? I'm just very grateful for it, and to have my family. It's just the best thing I've ever done, you know? It's the
Yeah,
best thing.
yeah. Well, listen, Aaron, thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You're a wonderful guy, you're a wonderful dad, and I'm sure that you've got some great things coming up as well with, one chapter closing at work, and I'm sure there'll be some exciting ones coming up in
Lots of exciting ones coming up.
All right. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and
All
we'll
right. Thanks, Kevin. Have a good one. Bye.
bye.